Okay, 5.4 are locating the X and Y intercepts on a graph. It's going to be easier than our 5.2 section, so kind of something to look forward to. Just so you know what these two words mean, so on your graph, so here's your X and Y axis, X intercepts touch the X axis, which is this guy right there. So like if a graph went like this would be the X intercept. And then, let me mark a different color, this right here would be the Y-intercept because it's touching that vertical line. X-intercepts are touching that horizontal line. And you're going to be getting answers that are like X equals this or X equals that. For your Y-intercept, it's going to be a Y equals value. So, to get the X-intercepts, you factor top and bottom just like we did for holes, just like we did for asymptotes. So you factor the top and bottom, so you get it to be parentheses, parentheses, and then anything that's the same you cancel out. And the stuff that's left, so like right here, this guy, that's what you're solving for. So this equals 0, you're just solving, your answer will get you an X equals, and you're done. If you don't have any X's on top, then you have no X-intercepts. Y-intercepts are super easy. When you have your original equation, you just, anywhere you see an X, you plug in a 0. And you solve the top, solve the bottom, and you get a fraction. If you do get 0 over 0, or something over 0, then there's no Y-intercepts. So pretty easy to find those Y-intercepts. So again, factoring numerator is for your X-intercepts. Plugging in 0 is your Y-intercept. So let's try practice problems. We're going to be finding both X and Y-intercepts. So for this first problem on the top, let's factor to get our X-intercepts. So when you factor the top here, they have something in common. They've got an X. And when you take an X off here, you get X. Keep the sign, minus. And then 4X, when you divide by the X, you just have the 4 left. And then as long as there's no squareds, exponents at all, here or here, then you're done with the factoring. On the bottom, let's look at that. So the negative here means I have to pull a negative out as a factor, which means each sign switches to the opposite. Okay, so all I'm doing is taking the same thing I had right here, but switching the signs when I put them in. And if you notice, there's still a squared, so that's when I keep going. So the top I'm just going to rewrite really quick. Bottom, go ahead and try factoring with hippo butt. Remember hippo butt, you want 2 parentheses. Okay, with hippo butt, when you do X squared, you'll split up X and X. To split up the 6, we're going to do 3 and 2. You also could have done 6 and 1. And then for the sign, right here, the negative here tells you opposite signs. If it was a positive, they'd be the same sign. And then let's check the innies and outies to make sure we can get the negative X. So negative 3X, positive 2X equals negative 1X, which is the same. So we're good there. You have to go in that order. If you chose 6 and 1, make sure you check the signs. And you'll notice you can't get to that negative 1X, so that's why we used 3 and 2. Okay, I'm going to get rid of the belly button just so you can see just our problem we're working with. So this is our problem right here. Are there any parentheses that are the same top and bottom? Nope, none. So now we take the top. That's all I care about. X equals 0 and X minus 4 equals 0. So there's 2 parentheses with X, so there's 2 answers. That's already done. On this side, if we add 4 to both sides of the equal sign, we get X equals 4. So those are our 2 values. So when we go to graph this in the later unit, we're going to have one at 0 and one at 4. So it might look something like that. Okay. Y-intercept for this problem. That's when you plug in. So we have y equals 0 squared minus 4 times 0, because the x is here, just get replaced. And same with the bottom, negative 0 squared plus 0 plus 6. When you solve the top, we get 0 minus 0. On the bottom, we get 0 squared is 0, negative 0, plus 0 plus 6, so we get 0 over 6. 0 divided by anything is still 0, so that's our y-intercept. Now on a graph, it might go like that, something, but it only hits the y-axis once. So your answer, I should see the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts listed like this, boxed. And if you don't have any, remember you write no x-intercepts. Which didn't happen on this problem, but that's how you write it if it does. Okay. Problem number 6, a little bit trickier factoring here. Common factors. Let's go ahead and do that for our x-intercept. So, common factor of x on top, because every term has an x, so I am decreasing my x's in each one. So x cubed becomes x squared, 5x squared becomes 5x, 4x just becomes 4. On the bottom we have an x in common. We also have a 4 in common, and you can put those together as 4x, or you can leave them separate, that's fine. Actually, I'm just going to continue the problem as them separate. So we get x plus 3, because we got rid of the 4, and we got rid of one of the x's. On this one, when you divide by 4, you get the 3, and you get rid of one of the x's, there's no x left, because that x moved up front. Now on the top, we still have a squared, so that's when we keep going with factoring. You can't stop here because of that squared. So we do hippo butt. We split up that x. We split up the 4. We're going to do 4 and 1 here. You could also do 2 and 2, but it might not work in the end. The positive right there means you put the same sign, either both positive or both negative. And then let's check the innies and outies. So we do, let's do bright pink here. 4x and 1x together makes 5x, which matches. On the bottom, we don't have any squareds here, here, or here. So no squareds, no squareds, no squareds. So we just leave it. Okay. Now there is a parentheses in common here. If you notice, x by itself is top and bottom, so we cross it out. This 4 cannot cancel with this one because this 4 has an x attached. You have to keep it all together because it's 2 terms. So that's all we can cancel. So then we go ahead and solve just the top. So x plus 4 equals 0, and x plus 1 equals 0. So when you do this one, subtract the 4. When you do, let's box that. When you do this one, minus the 1, some of those cancel. You get negative 1, box that. So those are our 2 x-intercepts. And then we go back for our y-intercept. We do y equals, and we just plug in a 0 everywhere you see x. And remember, when you do the order of operations here, you do want to have the squared happen before the times 5. So this becomes 0, then times the 5 with it. So we get 0 plus 0 plus 0 over 0 plus 0. This is an instance where you have no y-intercept because you have 0 over 0. So our answers are the x-intercepts and that y-intercept. And that's it. Please make sure you show all of that factoring work on your homework, and remember to cross out anything that is shared top and bottom, like in that second example.